In this video, okay, we look at how you deal with constructed response exams, and you usually see these in level 4, 5, and 6 of your CIPS exams. In level 4, this will be level 4 module 1 and module 8. In level 5, this will be M1 and M4, basically L5 M1 and L5 M4. While in level 6, you will have these in module 1, module 2, module 3, and module 4. Of course, these, they're all constructed response exams. Back before CIPS changed the syllabus, all questions are just that. All questions are just, here's a question, and then construct your response. So what is the difference between constructed response exams and objective response exams? Now, the difference is that with the objective response exams, or questions in this case, you actually select an answer. So there's a question and then there are choices and you select the right one. So an example of that would be a question like this. Transfast Logistics agrees that up to 5% of deliveries may be delayed by a maximum of 2 days without triggering a supplier performance review. Any delay beyond that results in penalties. What does the 5% and 2-day limit represent? Is it the company's risk appetite, the company's risk tolerance, the company's risk threshold, or even the company's exposure level? So that is an example of OR, okay? Now, this is unlike your constructed response, so the CR, which you'll find a question like this, or something like, analyze how the 4 classical supply chain risk management strategies, that is tolerate, treat, transfer, and terminate, can be applied to different categories of supply risks and show when each strategy is most appropriate. So 25 marks. By the way, if you're part of our membership, okay, our exclusive membership program, you already have those sort of questions. You have, you do post questions there. You can download. There are videos, extended videos where, from various things. So make sure, you go there, download the PDF. In fact, this particular video, the PDF to this video is already there with questions and answers and all that stuff. Okay? And if you haven't, just hit the join button and join that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's look at how you handle CR questions. Okay, let's start by, in this case, here's a sample question. In this case, we are looking at this particular question here. That is MedLife, okay? MedLife Hospital is a 400-bed private facility that provides inpatient and outpatient services. Recently, it faced delays in receiving critical medical supplies such as gloves, syringes, because of weak procurement coordination. The hospital's management has asked the procurement team to review their operational activities and strengthen their daily routines to ensure reliable supply availability. So in this case, what exactly you're required to do? You're required to describe the operational procurement activities, notice operational procurement activities that MedLife Hospital's procurement staff should carry out to support consistent delivery of healthcare. So with this question, actually with all your questions, be they the OR objective, or be they the constructed, the CR, you don't just rush into answering the questions in whatever, okay? You have to start by planning your response. Because otherwise, sometimes you just look at the questions and then I know the answer to this one. Wait, is it this one or is it? So don't just rush into it. Anyway, with these questions, the CR questions, you need a plan. So your planning could be something like, number 1, ensure you understand what is required of you. Number 2, work on your introduction. Number 3, work on the body of your answer. Number 4, write a short conclusion. And number 5, do your final checks, usually looking to see if everything you've submitted before you submit it actually makes sense. That's all right. Let's go through that. Let's look at the question that we looked at and many more questions depending on whether you're watching these as an exclusive, member, or you're watching it. Look, let's go through that and see what is what. Okay, so we're back to this question. Okay. Now, the MedLife Hospital 400-bed facility facilitates. The MedLife Hospital, or rather MedLife Hospital, is a 400-bed facility that provides inpatient and outpatient services, right? And recently, it faced delays in receiving critical medical supplies such as gloves, syringes, because of weak procurement coordination. The hospital's management has asked the procurement team to review the operational activities and strengthen daily routines, okay, to ensure reliable supply availability. Now describe the operational procurement activities that Medilife's hospital procurement staff should carry out to support consistent delivery of healthcare services. Oh, it's 25 marks. And yeah, you download the PDF, it's there. So check the question so that you have it. And in this case, what exactly are we doing? We're supposed to, before we start writing, obviously, we plan our answers, right? Now, again, as I said, this is extended version of this video. So if you're like, why are you starting in question 3? I mean, you're looking at all these questions. Just that you're watching the free version or the, what is it called? The short version. Yeah. So, number 1, step 1, ensure you understand what is required of you. And if you go to this question, the command word of the things that are required of you in any given exam, number 1, you just have to know what exactly is the command word. In this case, it's describe. Okay, describe. So it could be describe, outline, identify, analyze, critically analyze, list, explain, all that stuff. So in this case, it's describe. And describe, what does it want you to do? Describe, so the key facts. Okay. You first of all know the command word, and then you know the key facts in the case. So what are the key facts? There is delay, okay, in delivery of what? Critical medical supplies, and you've been given an example, and these are attributed to weak procurement coordination, and they also want you to fix that so that you can strengthen the daily routines. And then you pay attention to what exactly is asked to describe operational procurement activities. So what are the operational activities, the daily routines? Those are the ones. And in this case, I look at them from a hospital perspective. Because in another question, it could be from a construction company perspective. Remember, this is a scenario question. And then, of course, yeah, so you keep your answers related to the hospital example. So 1, you are understanding the question. 2, so now that you've understood the question, there's going to be an introduction. So what do you talk about in introduction? You define procurement, obviously. Okay, obviously, you need to know what you're talking about. Define procurement in a clear sentence, but you're not defining it from a strategic perspective. You're defining it from an operational role point of view. And then basically state the purpose, okay, in this case to ensure reliable supply of critical medical items. Because it could be, I mean, you could define procurement and say its purpose is to deliver whatever, agriculture. So in this case, it's medical. Okay, you know, if you obviously keep your answer short, you mention the problems that are there. So what you're just saying is don't just copy paste things that you read in one of those big books and then you sound like a machine. So an example of your intro could be something like this. In this case, we have, and again, these are things you read in your download, right? So procurement is the activity that secures required goods and services for an organization. No, not that in itself is definition of procurement. An activity that secures required goods and service for an organization. That's the operational definition of procurement. Otherwise, sourcing and doing all those things are also part of procurement. We're just not interested in those ones here at the moment as part of definition. And then you link it to the scenario. So at Medilife Hospital, operational procurement must ensure timely, safe, and cost-effective supply of critical consumable, or you could say critical requirements or critical items. In this case, gloves and syringes, so patient care is not disrupted. What have you done? You've defined procurement and you've linked it. Okay, number 2, you've linked it to the scenario here, the medical scenario. And now what? So you have your intro. Next, work on the body. All right. So the body in this case, what are you going to do? In this case, you have to figure out what exactly you're going to talk about. What activities, those operational activities, what are they? In short, this one is just asking what are the function of procurement, but from an operational point of view. So the functions could be supply monitoring, all those things, right? And then describe what the staff will actually do based on what you've just mentioned here. Of course, you are applying it to the medical to the Medilife situation here. Okay. So I mean, let's see. You can mention 6 to 7 of those things. So number one, what are the activities? We have supply, market monitoring. So you describe our staff. Okay. Search the markets for availability of what is needed. Price trends, emergency substitutes, all that stuff. And then explain how market monitoring, okay, how they monitor suppliers of what? Of the gloves, of the syringes, or they watch for shortages. So in short, you're just supporting this thing you've just said here that you're describing. Another one could be supplier evaluation and selection. That's another operational activity they'll undertake. And you describe how staff checks supplier licenses, quality records, delivery performance. Okay, remember the hospital, 400 beds, right? So you want to choose a supplier that can meet those standards. Another role of procurement in this case, from operational point of view, will be processing requisitions. We talk about requisitions. You could even say the way they come from the wards, okay? Then they get validated, prioritized, and then they're converted into what? Purchase orders. Because one department puts a requisition, you just don't buy that thing. You need to know, what if whatever they require is already in store? So that's how you validate. And then, since all departments are going to be putting out requisitions, you need to know which one do we give priority. Anyway, other activities that you can mention here will be providing input to specifications, because remember, the people who work with the patients, like the doctors and the nurses and whatever, they know the sort of syringes, they know the sort of gloves they need, so they'll give you the specifications. But you are also going to work together with them to get the specifications right, because they might just say, yeah, we need nice gloves. It's like, what does that mean? So you look like, what does nice mean in this context? So anyway, I'm just talking about specification development in this case. And then we have negotiating, buying, and developing contracts. So you'll just go ahead and talk about all the functions, okay, like that you want. So now that's your body. Make sure you read all that. And once you've written the body, there is a conclusion. So your conclusion, okay, write 1 or 2 sentences that sum up procurement's contribution, and especially making sure that you link it. You always want to write the theory and then you link it, because these are scenario-based question. An example here will be, by carrying out these operational procurement activities, Medilife's procurement team will secure timely supplies, reduce clinical risks from stockouts, and support continuous delivery of safe patient care. That's your conclusion based on the activities. Right now, you're just going to be like, yep, submit, I'm done. Nope. Go ahead and check what you've just wrote, step 5, okay? So you have to ensure that everything you're writing is based on the command word. So describe. So you're not just listing stuff, right? You're describing them using paragraphs. If there are things you've repeated, get rid of those things. If there are grammar mistakes that you've made, correct the grammatical mistakes, because, So you want to avoid vague statements like, they manage supplies. No. How? Do they manage supplies? Why? Like you see in this case, let's just pick any. Providing input. Okay, let's go with something like, anyway, even that one, like providing input. So you're like providing inputs to specifications and then leave it that way. Nope. How do they do that? By working with the clinicians. Why? Because the clinicians know exactly what is required. So anyway, from your download, these are planning. There is the sample answer, so you can go through that. Okay, like that's the introduction, and then you have the body. It talks about all this stuff. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm just going to waste your time. Plus, you probably don't even like how I read it, do you? So read it all the way, and then you have your conclusion. So that was for that example, right? Then that we started just to show you what is going on. Anyway, let's move on. So before we look at another question, okay, before we jump to another question, let me just remind you that you don't have to guess what a distinction level answer looks like, especially when you're dealing with constructed response exams. I mean, don't wing it. Don't just be like, okay, yeah, it's a question, 25 marks, let me write. What do they want here? You don't have to do that, okay? Make sure you join the answer lab. Now, this is a members only part of this channel. And if you become a member, some of the things that you're going to have access to will include complete video breakdown of an assessment criteria with question and answer, how to structure your constructed response answer, downloadable practice questions and answers used in the videos that we'll be using and those not used, access to an archive of previous questions. I mean, the point is just go ahead, hit the join button, okay? Pick whichever one you want, become a member of that. And remember, you can get these, okay? The download, either with all the questions or the ones that are relevant to this video that you're watching, depending on whether you are in the membership or you're watching these as part of the general videos that we do put out on the channel, which either way, there's a download for you, depending on where you are. Also, let me know what you think of this style of revising. Is it helping you? Is there something that you wish we could change? Let me know. So, here's another question. Now, the question that we looked at, that one simply talked about the role of procurement. But let's start with something simple, like what exactly is the difference between purchasing and procurement? In this case, we have, right, so we have Freshmart. Okay, Freshmart is a supermarket with 20 stores across the country. Now, the company relies on its procurement team to ensure that fresh produce, okay, cleaning materials, and packaging are available in all stores on time. The management team has recently reminded the staff that procurement is more than just purchasing and plays a strategic role in business. Good, so they've done that, right? Anyway, what are you required? You're required to explain how procurement activities at Freshmart add value to the organization beyond simply purchasing goods. So they're like, okay, yeah, what is the difference? Like, what's the difference between procurement and purchasing? That's what they're asking you in different ways. So in this case, obviously, you start by planning your answer. What are you saying? Identify key procurement areas. Okay? So that's the thing. Before you start writing, think about different elements that make procurement activities. For example, added value, cost management, logistics, all that stuff. And then link each element to the scenario, in this case, the supermarket example. For example, procurement team negotiates long-term supply contracts, and this reduces costs and ensures stable prices. Anyway, so do that and then structure your answer. So usually the introduction, the body, the conclusion, which will for the most part just depend on the command word, which in this case is explain. You always have to understand which is the command word. Now, we talked about the method that we used in the other question. So I'm just trying to tell you that there are various methods that you can use, but at the end of the day, they just come down to the same thing, like what is required of you and then planning your answer, basically the structure. So the intro, briefly define procurement and explain how it differs from purchasing. That's it. What's the difference between procurement and purchasing? And then, since this is going to be one of those theoretical definitions, you have to link it to the scenario. So, I mean, you're targeting like 3 to 5 marks with your intro, and then in the body, you're targeting 18 to 20 marks. So what do you do in the body? The body, you're going to have paragraphs, meaning identify the procurement activity and explain how it links to that one and why it benefits that business, links to that. So an example of a paragraph could be something like procurement department at Freshmart negotiates long-term contracts with key suppliers. So that's what they do. What do? They negotiate long-term contract. Okay. These will help the business to secure stable prices and consistent delivery schedules. The result of this is that the company avoids stock shortages and maintains customer satisfaction, which shows how procurement supports business continuity and value for money. So these are paragraphs that are going to have in the body, and you say, so each paragraph will just depend on whatever activity you've mentioned. And each activity is just designed to show how procurement is different from purchasing. And then, of course, there is your conclusion, which you work on, okay, which will summarize the procurement at that company. Anyway, so here's a sample answer for that. There's the intro, and then we have the rest of the paragraph, the body, so all the way. So in this case, what are the activities? And if you read your notes, you'll just see what are the functions of procurement. These are just functions of procurement, like all this stuff, just functions. Only that now you're linking them to the scenario. For example, logistics and supply continuity, meaning what? Another way procurement adds value is through effective logistics and supply chain management. Why are we talking about value? If you go back to the question, so that you're not just pulling things out of, I don't know, whatever. The question was, explain how procurement activities at Freshmart add value. Okay? Beyond just simply purchasing. So they didn't just say explain how procurement activities at Freshmart and then left it that way. If you compare this to the other questions, the other question was just, this is the problem we have in our hospital, and then how will the operational procurement help us to solve those problems? In this case, they are insisting on value. So you talk about something like logistics. Another way procurement adds value is through effective logistics and supply chain management. How? Okay, Freshmart depends on a timely delivery of perishable goods. Good. So procurement, what will they do? They will select suppliers who can deliver directly to stores using reefers, so refrigerated vehicles. Well, the refrigerated container is called a reefer, not the reefer, the other thing. So this reduces the need for central storage, minimizes the risk of spoilage, and blah, blah, blah. So you see, that's the thing. The same thing with just about any other point. It will just tell you how what that thing does, whatever it is that the procurement will do. Like the procurement looks into inventory and waste management. And then, meaning what? Meaning, they'll tell you what it does and how that helps the business and how that also plays the value addition role. Right, so make sure you do that. Read all the thing, like the entire example of the answer. And then now you're good. So those are 2 questions, okay? Remember, it's all about how you structure. The thing is, just don't rush into answering the question. Make sure you understand what is needed of you. And just so we are still on the same page, there is an extended version of this video, okay? I mean, where I look at more questions, because otherwise you just make a long video and then like for people, and then you leave it halfway and then YouTube is like, people don't even like this video. Let me not. Look, if you're serious about this, there's an extended version of this video. You can check that out. Right, so up to there. If you have any question, okay, do let me know. Right, and if you're not part of our newsletter, every week I do write a newsletter that has this sort of thing. Like the people, I've already sent a version of this, I think, when was that? This week. So it's already out. They've already seen that. How to go through the questions and answer that. So make sure you join. I mean, in addition to CIPS content, you also have business stuff, right? Like starting your logistics business or something like that. I mean, so just make sure you subscribe. The details are in the description. Otherwise, if there is any question, do let me know. See you in the next video.